Okay, so my name is Gilles, and first of all, I'm extremely honored to be here, and actually humbled as well, because most of the people that inspired me to do what I do today are either sitting next to me or in the audience, so that's a very nice thing to have. So, in order to start a good story, usually we skip straight to the end, so I'm going to show my most recent show reel. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now that we've all seen the ending, let's skip back to the beginning. So I was born in the 90s, the amazing time of dial-up internet and Jurassic Park. And this is a picture of me, and my parents clearly realized early on that I was an absolute clown, so they dressed me as one. And while making this presentation, I realized that this photo was extremely blurry, so I tried to AI upscale it, which was absolutely horrible because I look like Steve Buscemi now. So, as a young child, I was already extremely creative. So my first journey started immediately with me drawing amazing landscapes, as you can see behind me. But soon after, I realized I reached peak potential with this self-portrait, and I gave up all creative endeavors for a couple of years. So we can fast forward to the year 2000, the year of emo haircuts, and The Matrix, another amazing movie which also put me on the path I'm on today. And at that time, I was playing a lot of video games. And with video games come cheat codes, and obviously looking on forums for said cheat codes. So I saw all these little things below forum posts, which were forum signatures back in the day, and I wanted to make those. I was like, this is really cool. So I fired up Kazaa, I downloaded Photoshop, and I started. I didn't know what I was doing, and some would say, till this day, I still don't know what I'm doing, but anyway. In the end, I learned myself how to really tinker with Photoshop, and after a couple of years of doing this, people started asking me, hey, you have this cool forum signature, could you make me one as well? Or even better, could you show me some of your work? And I said, yes, I can, but it's really annoying to send this via personal message, so I taught myself how to make a website, you know, tables, the full 1990 website experience, marquees, everything, you know. And that was my first real technical challenge, but in the end, it worked. These are obviously not my website, because this is so long ago, I don't even own that computer anymore. But it really taught me like how to troubleshoot and get into the more technical things. So then I switched, how to say, careers, quote unquote, early on again, into music production, which, you know, everyone starts somewhere. And the music I was making wasn't really that great, and I realized it wasn't really that great. So I had to find a way to approach someone to ask them why my music really wasn't that great. And the way I did that is by going to said person, who up until this day is a good friend and mentor of mine. And I said, okay, I'll make you cover art, I'll make you a website, you know. All I want from you in return is to just give me, you know, your opinion on my music and why it's terrible, so I can improve. And that worked out great. We ended up being good friends, and that actually landed us to me getting my first booking as a DJ on a festival. And in order to celebrate this, I took my hard-earned, cash savings, and I bought a camera together with a friend, and he filmed the occasion. And that was kind of how I got into making after movies and stuff like that. But first, obviously, I'll show you this amazing masterpiece. And I edited the music out so you know your ears don't bleed. It has all the good effects as well, so you'll really enjoy this. But it's me. Everyone was having a good time, you can clearly tell. See all the effects, amazing. All right, so then we can fast forward to 2010. The amazing age of Facebook, which we still to this day all love, and smartphones, the second thing to this day we all love. And at that time, I was still doing a whole lot of video clips and after movies. Like it started growing exponentially. Like even at the end, we were participating in the after movie of Tomorrowland, among others. So it was becoming a rather profitable career. But I was doing an internship at the time, so starting my own business together with a friend. We were still doing these video clips and after movies at all odd ends of the day. And so I was basically, the entire week, I was either going to school, working, or both at the same time, trying to produce music, trying to keep my social media presence up in the air, and then having to play on bookings as well as film sometimes on the same festivals. So I was completely getting overwhelmed with that, and I realized I needed a more, how to say it, normal, steady job. So I started to learn myself some motion graphics. At first, lyric videos, and stuff like that to get some money. But then I realized that doing the festivals and all of that, next to the playing there as well, like so the after movies and the playing at festivals wasn't really a good combo. So I tried to do some more commercial work. And after finding some smaller clients, I did my first big project. And that was actually for the for Brussels Airport. It was a vision of how their 2040 airport would look like, and that looked like this. So this was my first big commercial project. And then this guy appeared, or more accurately, this guy appeared, and he absolutely blew my mind. He did what a studio, in my eyes, like, you know, a team of like 25 people would take months to do, and he did it on his own, and he did it using some weird thing called a GPU. So I got really excited. I went to the store, I bought myself a 980 Ti with the last of my savings at that point, and it also introduced me to Octane. So the GPU renderer, which we all know and love. And I started working, like trying to figure out how this thing worked. And after a while, I realized, yeah, I don't really have any clients, you know, with which to do this. But I was still like in the festival route, and we did sort of a trailer every year for one of the festivals where they announced their theme. So the first year it was India, the second year it was Rome, and then the third year it was Route 66. But the budget for said trailer was 300 euros. And of those 300 euros, usually like half went to the voiceover, so that wasn't really a lot of budget. But I said, okay, I'll do it. You know, this budget is completely unreasonable, but I'll do it on the one condition that I can do whatever I want. And they said, sure, because they always liked my work before. And after slaving away for 6 months, in my spare time, next to all the school and all the other work together, I did the following. So this was using every trick in the book to minimize like render time and to Twixtor, and you'll see some artifacts here and there, but let's just all ignore them.
Legend has it that ages ago, the natives discovered a place of prophecy. One that could grant one's heart's desires. Eternal life, gold and riches, paradise. All but forgotten. It took me years, but I think I finally found the way there. Now, this trip ain't gonna be easy. The road will be long and dangerous. But together, we'll discover the frontier. We'll tame this brave new world. Question is, do you think you've got it in you? Hypo Dream, Route 66, 13th of July, 2019.
Thank you. So after this, after I'd done this, I still realized that festival work really wasn't paying that well. 300 euros isn't that much. And I moved on to doing more commercial work. And through some acquaintances, I got my first commercial job doing floorboards. So this is what I call my floorboard era. I did all sorts of floorboards. I did floorboards that clicked. I did different kinds of floorboards. I did floorboards, like videos about how they got sawed, how they clicked, got glued, all things you could do with floorboards. I did floorboards which really didn't look like floorboards, but were actually still floorboards. I did like beauty shots of floorboards. I did sort of floorboards, but were actually stones. Then I did more floorboards. I did balls falling on floorboards, packaging of floorboards. I did floorboards above floorboards. So in the end, literally death by 1,000 floorboards. But then I discovered something, and like a light bulb moment above my head, I was on Reddit browsing, and this was situated like right around the time the last season of Game of Thrones was about to come out, and the second season of WestWorld was about to come out. And there was a medley by someone who mixed the two theme songs of WestWorld and Game of Thrones. And I heard that, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I need to do. Because Raoul Marx, the guy who made The Astronaut, made like the intro to WestWorld. And I was like, what if I combine, the intro of Game of Thrones and WestWorld? Because this, people like both these series. At the time, they used to like these series. If I could combine those, there's a chance that this maybe is convincing enough if I do it well, that it could go viral. And secondly, it will be a lot of work, but I can at least reverse engineer everything Raoul is doing, because he's, the best at what he does. So it was a win-win, and I did it. And this is the result. This was around about 8 to 9 months. Again, full-time job, doing this on the weekends, saying no to birthday parties, all the good things. And then I got this email. So Jay Worth is the visual effects supervisor of WesterosWorld, and he sent me an email. Great job. At first I thought I had done something horribly wrong, but apparently I didn't. And he actually presented yesterday. He was doing the Fallout talk here, so which was also pretty nice to finally meet him in person. Here's a picture of me and him in person, just to prove that it was actually me meeting him. And at that point, he said, "Yeah, if something comes up in the future, I'll let you know." And I was like, "Okay, sure, thanks. No expectations, great." And a year later, I got an email, and they were working on The Peripheral, a new show on Amazon, the same showrunners as WesterosWorld, and they had sort of a crucial scene where in the middle of the plot, they were explaining what happened to their world. It was a series of different apocalypses, and they wanted some concept art for that. So I said, sure, I can do that. So I made some concepts in a week or two, and I sent it to them, and they said, great, we love them. They're absolutely amazing. Could you also do the VFX? And I said, absolutely, I can do that. I'd never done VFX before in my life. So after hanging up the call and panicking profusely for 10 minutes, calling everyone I knew who'd ever touched anything that had remotely to do with VFX, I went to work. And like the 8 or 9 following months were the most stressful of my life. My Dropbox got deleted twice, in the middle of production, and everything that went wrong possibly went wrong. But in the end, everything worked out, and this is the result.
What is this?
Our past, your future. A museum of sorts. Each of these shapes represents a different phase of the jackpot.
Why the jackpot?
Gallows humor, I suppose. And it's less portentous than apocalypse.
This is the moment commonly pinpointed as the edge of the cliff, after which there is no turning back. The jackpot was unstoppable. The hack of the North American electrical grid. Complete blackout. Months long, continent-wide. An increasingly common phenomenon, as it turned out, across the globe.
That's just 7 years off in what world?
Pandemic. A filovirus. We called it the blood plague. It attacked the viscera, the liver, spleen, intestines, filling with blood till the abdomen burst.
Environmental catastrophe. Droughts. Famine. Antibiotic failure.
Agricultural collapse followed.
Full population collapse.
Bit more than 7 billion people, over 4 decades or so. And then came the end. A domestic terrorist attack in the United States. They blew up a nuclear missile silo. Spring Creek, North Carolina.
Jesus Christ. That's where I live.
All right. So this is at the point where I'm at now. I did work for 2 other projects because of this. One of them was Rebel Moon. You've probably all heard of that one. And the other one was Citadel, also an Amazon series where I did some HUDs and interfaces, also fun work to do. But if there's a few things I want you guys to take away from this talk is, first and foremost, is learning how to problem solve is really the most critical thing that I've learned in my career so far. Like literally everything can be problem solved, from how to get clients to technical issues yeah, basically organizing yourself. Like all of those things are really just problems that you have to break down and like analytically try and solve. So that's one of the most important things in my opinion. And then secondly, you can have the best reel, you can have the best work ever, but if nobody notices you, yeah, you're not going to get any work. And that's also the flip side of that is important. The work you want to do is the work you have to show to people. Like if you make websites, but you really want to make motion graphics, yeah, then don't advertise with websites because you're only going to get websites. That was kind of the trap where I was stuck in with the floorboards, because you know all of my work was floorboards, and yeah, so other companies were like, hey man, you want to do floorboards? And I can't, no. So yeah, that's why I did the Hail Mary of WesterosWorld thing. It was actually, you know, years of rage building up to creatively expressing myself, and it worked. So that was fun to do. Then the third one is also keep learning. Like some people in their careers at some point give up with learning, and I think that's sort of a mistake. Like there's always this element of passion as well. If you keep learning, you'll get ahead of others, or in some situations, like for example studios, they have a very rigid pipeline. Whereas you, as a solo artist, you can kind of circumvent that by being inventive. You know, you can learn other things and adapt more quickly. Whereas if they would have to change their pipeline, a lot of people would be affected in different ways that they maybe can't predict. So they're not that keen on doing that. And this comes seamlessly to like the last point I would say is use bleeding edge technology. And for me, that was Octane render, like the GPU architecture. Like instead of waiting for days on a shot with V-Ray, I could kind of real time work in 3D basically. So you just put some cards into a rig, which is relatively inexpensive versus like a whole bunch of CPUs, and you can keep up with what a big studio can do. So that was a game changer for me. Now, if I were a young me again, and I were doing, we're trying to come up in the world now, I would really, really use AI. Like, no matter how you feel about it, for your personal work, you could totally use AI to cut corners for things that are otherwise very technically demanding, because in the end, the result to show to people to get jobs is really what counts. And say you do get a job, then obviously you can't maybe use AI on that, or like no matter what your opinion on is, like use the technology to your advantage as best as you can. Then the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about are some of the breakdowns of the shots, like on a technical level. So the first thing I wanted to like go over a little bit was WesterosWorld. So this shot and this shot were the two more technically challenging ones. So the dragon here was a Creative Commons model that I found online and resculpted like as best as I can. Like I'm not a great sculptor, but you know I added muscles and I butchered the wing really badly. Like looking back on it now, but yeah, you have to be inventive sometimes. And instead of trying to rig this, which I tried and failed multiple times, I tried to use deformers as like an intermediary solution to make the wings flap, to make the tail move a little bit. Because it's like a slow motion shot, it can work here. And same thing for the head and the jaws. I did it as well with deformers. And because of my failed experiments with rigging, the other thing here, let's play it again, are the two arms on the left and the right. So part of it was a CAD model that I downloaded, and the head I just eyeballed from the original WesterosWorld trailer, title sequence, to like kind of match. And I did that using Fusion 360, a CAD modeler, which Cornelius, who's also somewhere here in the audience, like mentioned in one of his breakdowns, because it allows you to model without having to know topology or troubleshoot all these things. You can iterate really fast on it. And through my failed rigging attempts, I actually kind of figured out how to kind of rig this robot, which was funny in the end, because every time I opened the scene, the rig flipped. So what I had to do was save it twice, save it, open it again, and then I could render it. So that was also a really fun experience. I still to this day don't know what happened there, and yeah. So the second shot I wanted to talk about a little bit is the bee and the flower shot. So I'll just show the sequence again. This was also a lot of, how to say it, being very creative and trying to do things that otherwise would take like a rigger and stuff like that to do. So I went online and I went to go look for a bee, but I couldn't find one. So all I found was a wasp. So I, you know, took on my creative cap and I made it into a bee. You know, I changed the fur, I changed the UVs, I shortened the legs a little bit, you know, and made the head a little bit more puffy and cute. And I took this rig and I really like tried to make this like a slow motion bee, like dying in midair, trying to fall down, and then starting to emit particles, kind of like, you know, Thanos. I mean, yeah, it's maybe a really not a good joke, but anyway, so it kind of worked because when you see it in the edit, like along with the speed ramps and like some of the compositing, you can hide a lot of the imperfections because the animation clearly wasn't, you know, super great. I'm not an animator, but if you're inventive enough and you use the speed ramps to hide the imperfections, okay, could look really cool and look really dynamic, and it told the story exactly as they wanted. And you know, I pitched this, and they really loved it. So secondly, the other shot was the flowers, and what I did there was basically make 3 blend shapes. So in ZBrush, I just took the normal petal, then I made it wilt a little bit, and then the ultimate wilted model, so to speak. And I did that for every single leaf separately, so it took me around about a day to do. And then, you know, when you play that, along with some deformers, this was the first test that we did on that. So that, you know, it's a really cool result without having to simulate anything and go back and forth, because this was before Cinema 4D had a really rigid cloth system like it does now. So it was way slower to do back then. And this was just, you know, it might take me a little bit longer to do in the beginning, but I know this will give me the good result without having to get stuck in like experimental hell. So this is how I went with that. So I'll show it again, just to see the end result here again. So again, with the speed ramps to hide a lot of the imperfections, you know, we added some other things like flying petals and some droplets on the flower, but the basic rig is still the same. Then, this was, for me personally, the most fun shot to work on. You know, this is like my life during floorboards. Yeah. So I made a whole bunch of different blend shapes for this model. So as you can see, like on the left side there, like the leg is a little bit more up, and then on other shots, the arm is a little bit on the other side, or the neck, and you know. And I used all of those in combination with vertex maps and deformers to make it look as if he was moving. And that's basically, you know, when you put all of those together and you use those, you know, he can breathe a little bit and he can like move and, you know, like struggle. Like he's really in a lot of pain because this was supposed to be a virus that made you bleed and melt from the inside out, hence why he's melting here. That was really fun to do, I have to say. And after that, I, you know, exported like UV maps. You can see the best UV maps in the world. Like sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Nobody cares. It's in the end result, everything is fine. And I used Substance Painter to like add layers of decay on this person, so to speak, to make it look like he was bleeding from the inside out and kind of rotting. See, this is my floorboard face. You can clearly tell. So I kept adding, starting simple, you know, and adding layers on like the right places of where the flesh would be most infected, you know. And it was a really fun process to do, as I said before. All right. So then I took it into Octane and made some really cool. These were the actual shots that I used to send them as like the example. So actually, the funny thing is most of the assets that I made for the initial pitch were also the assets that I used in production, because my inner my inner autism doesn't allow me to finish to not finish shots completely. So I put in a lot of effort to convince them. Also because this was my dream job, and I really didn't want to like lose it just because I didn't put enough effort into the initial proposals. So this was really fun to do. Like as Thanos said before, like subsurface scattering and stuff in Octane is really amazing. It's really out of the box, really well to do. Now the last shot I wanted to talk about is the shot with the nuke, which is the shot I'm least proud of in the end, because there were multiple reasons for this. Like first and foremost, this was supposed to be a longer shot where the camera went 360 around her for at least 3 times, like a continuous shot. But there were a lot of things here that kind of went wrong, both on my side and on the production side. First, they shot really close to her with a lot of depth of field. And it was shot on location, so not on a green screen. And the problem there was, because of the depth of field, this thing was not trackable. It just didn't work. Like, I spent a lot of time trying to track it with software. So what I did in the end is I downloaded a 3D model of the environment on the right coordinates, you know, like open map data. And I hand-placed like a Cinema 4D figure in the middle, and I took a camera, and I literally just tried to frame it as best as I could, one by one. And I hand-tracked it. I'd never done that before in my life. I spent a week like going completely crazy doing it, but it worked. It finally worked out in the end. But secondly, something I also had underestimated, because as I said before, I'd never done VFX before, was the rotoscoping. I was like, they all do it fine, you know? I'll be able to do it fine. But it was an overcast day, the actress has blonde hair, and the trees in the back are really dark. So there was like the blend between the light, like the light of the clouds, the trees, and her hair was just an absolute nightmare. So in the end, spent a whole lot of time trying to do that. But in the end, it worked out. So the other thing that's really helped me here was the render network, because what you can do on the render network is basically take all of the alembics of the grass, all the VDBs, and you can upload them once, and they stay on their servers. And what you can do then is basically iterate on the things you need to iterate and upload them in a fraction of a second, because each of these scenes was like, I don't know, 60 to 70 gigabytes. So, you know, even if you have pretty decent internet, it still takes a couple hours. But now, only my project files like kind of changed. So it was a couple of megabytes. So you could instantly upload them, and they rendered. So I could send at least 3 to 4 iterations on one day. And even the production was saying to me, like, wow, you sure iterate a lot, you know, because you have a whole lot of GPUs at your disposal, so it goes really fast. And another bonus point of that was the person that was helping me doing the VDBs at the same time. He just, at the end of his workday, he just uploaded them in an empty scene file to the network, and then also uploaded them to Dropbox to me, and I could just, you know, import them, not care at all, instantly iterate and see how it looked. It was a really, really, really good tool. So we came to the end of the story, and there are a few people and organizations, obviously, that I want to thank, like OTOY and the Render Network, for basically helping me achieve my dreams up until now, which is not something that a lot of people can say. Secondly, Jay Worth for being insane enough to give me a chance, you know, as a solo artist to be able to do this. Patrick Frigg, who's here somewhere, I can't see because of giant lens flare. But yeah, he's the one that led me into the Render Network to test it at the very beginning, and he got me on board with Octane, and yeah, like he's also the reason why I'm here today. Then my colleague, with which I started my company, which is a persistent thorn in my side. I hope this is recorded so he hears that. And then last but not least, Gavin Legrand, which is the person who first helped me get my first booking, which started this amazing journey, so the producer and very good friend. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions or something, feel free to shoot me an email.